Hello, my name is Alec Hall. I am a composer and sound artist, and right now I actually live in New York City. So I grew up in Toronto, and with the one sort of short exception in 1996 when I lived on a sheep farm for that year in New Zealand, that's where I grew up in Toronto. And I actually went to school here in Vancouver for 1 year, my first year of college. And then I went to McGill, where I finished my undergraduate. My approach to composing is, I think, first and foremost, it's rooted in a kind of conceptual language or structure. That principally I have to have an idea that motivates me before I can really do something. My proposal that I submitted was that I wanted to explore the sonic landscapes of the Athabasca oil sands projects. And Quasar was generous enough to send me up to Fort McMurray on the way to Vancouver, where I recorded over about 2.5 days. I recorded as much as I could. I got as close as I could to these projects and met with people, and some people who had been working there for 30 years, so they described to me what the sounds of not just the surroundings, from the periphery of the project, of the sites that I was able to experience myself, but what they were really like on the inside as well. So the piece that I'll end up composing for Quasar, for the project, will be a kind of combination of translations and transcriptions of the recordings that I made north of Fort McMurray. So in some cases that'll be quite literal. There was this great moment when the quartet, we were working together in one of the earlier workshop settings, I think the first, and we listened to one of these recordings, and it's the sound of the tailing ponds where all of this toxic effluence is pumped into lakes that are so large that they're visible from space. And, it's quite familiar that migrating birds will come to land on them and then they'll all die. They have to create physical disincentives, essentially, for the birds to not land on the water or on the toxic water. And so that includes kind of a constantly firing series of cannons and fake bird scarecrows. We were trying to figure out how we could replicate them on the saxophone. And at first it seemed like a sort of a slap tongue or a key click might work. And then the next day I came in with the electronics, with the live processing, and Matthew flicked the reed on the alto saxophone, and with a little reverb it sounded just like it. And then other sections will be kind of imagined sounds from talking to workers and hearing them describe the process of the upgrading of the bitumen that I couldn't actually access because corporate security is very tight. And other sections will be maybe kind of my own emotional observations upon seeing these facilities for the first time. saxophone and the family of saxophones is just such an incredibly versatile and amazing instrument. It can just do so many things. And then, as a violinist myself, it reminds me so much of the string family because the blend between the different ranges, it's almost seamless. And so the saxophone quartet functions like a string quartet, but with, of course, its own differences and strengths and special capacities. I think all art is political, whether it chooses to make a statement about something political, a political topic, or by choosing not to make a statement. And I think many artists, and as a kind of ballpark estimate, most composers, while being very committed to political engagement on a personal level, shy away from making political statements or engaging political topics in their music and art making. Now, I mean, it doesn't have to be explicit, but I think that simply the act of going up there, I don't know if I'm going to attempt to create or to imbue a sense of judgment necessarily in the work, because it's very difficult to do that within music without some kind of obvious text. But I think that the emotional content of the piece will speak for itself. So working with Quasar at the Western Front was very productive. I really enjoyed my time here. And so the first day we were able to, I was able to sort of convey my own oral memories of the oil sands regions and express sort of create a catalog of sounds that I thought might translate. So a lot of wind sounds, like air sounds, percussive sounds, things like this. Then the next day we were working with electronics and just sort of further refining them. And then when you work with electronics, it's, of course, there's a lot of sort of nitty-gritty small stuff. You think like, well, what if I take a low instrument and I transpose it down? Well, that'll be really cool. But then it turns out it doesn't actually work very well, and you have to transpose it up. In the computer, like you have, if you have 0, right, like no transposition, as soon as you go below, it's not effective. You have to go up one. And if you didn't have the chance to test that out, then and you went straight into a rehearsal or a concert setting, then it would be kind of an aesthetic failure. And so working in a workshop like setting like this is actually extremely beneficial.